Alright, well, it's Saturday. We got exactly 1 week until the show in Tucson. Trying to get the truck together. I got the tire ordered. I should be able to pick that up tomorrow so we can get that mounted and we have a good tire on it. Found out from it setting my batteries are not coming back. I've charged them and they're not coming back, so I've got to get 2 new batteries. The girls are going to help me oil the truck, so we'll probably do that first, and then we're going to work on the gauges. I've got these dual needle gauges, so I've got 2 of them, and that's going to give me the poundage in each bag on the front and rear of the truck. Now the reason I'm doing this is I have to play with the truck going down the road, and there's a certain position that I get the front and the rear together, and the truck drives perfect. I mean, steering's perfect, everything's good, doesn't pull, doesn't wander, and I have to hit that sweet spot. Well, it drives my wife nuts that when I'm going down the freeway at 70 miles an hour that I keep tweaking the suspension. So I'm going to put the gauges in so that when I find that sweet spot I can remember it and know that 70 pounds in the front bags and 50 in the rear or whatever, and then whenever I lift the truck up I can just set it to that and I know where I'm at and I'm good. I go down the road. So now with these gauges, what it requires is 2 1/4-inch air lines. So what we're going to have to do is mount the gauges, run 4 1/4-inch air lines to the back, and then T-end all the lines to the bags so I can see what the pressure is. Now the first thing that we've got to do is figure out how to mount these in the truck. They sell like, you know, little gauge panels that you screw in. I hate those. I despise the way they look. It just looked like you didn't try. So I'm going to actually cut up some sheet metal right now. I have this hole in my dash right here that I have no clue why somebody cut it in this car. Makes no sense. I have no idea what was in there. Maybe a little EQ or something, I don't know. Something that never should have been cut into the steel dash in this truck. So now, I've looked at it for years and now this gives me something to put in that spot. The spot's too small, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the panel to cover it and then trim the last little bit out to make the gauges fit through. So that's what I'm going to work on right now. We're going to oil the truck and then I'll start on this. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, so look, I was looking around for sheet metal. I've got tons of it to make this out of, but then I realized I've bought some brass and some copper from the scrapyard. A lot of times I have remnants and drops like this, and like this piece here cost me $2. So if you look in the remnants and drops, sometimes you can find some things other than sheet metal or aluminum. I found a piece of aluminum, but I don't think that fits. Brass, copper, I kind of laid it up. I think the brass might look cool. And the best thing is, it doesn't turn out good, just paint it black. So, anyway, so now I've laid out, where the hell is it? There it is. I've laid out the holes for the gauges. Now I've measured, I've given myself a 1/2 inch on the sides and everything for these gauges. Now up top is going to be pressed because of the amount of room. So what I've done is I've laid out what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and drill the holes for the gauges while this is a big sheet so it's easier to hold on to. So I'll center punch the holes, just use a normal hole saw, go nice and slow, and try to make good holes in this. Then we can shear it and shape it and do whatever we're going to after that. All right. Okay, so look, I started making this piece out of brass and, you know, shaping it, things like that. Just did not fit. I didn't like anything about it, so I threw it away. I got to thinking, and I remembered I have these gauge pods that I bought at a swap meet. They were like $5. I got 2 of them. So they're sweet. They're made to go into a dash, and they have like the little visors on them. I think this will look amazing in the truck if I can get it to fit. Now it does not fit and my shifter hits real close. Got to try to figure it out. This is what I'm going to work on now because this is more my style of what to put in the truck. So right now I'm going to lay out a template for these circles, start fitting it in there, see what it's going to look like, and then start cutting this up to fit in there. I think this is definitely the ticket. Alright guys, well it's the next morning. I went to cut the dash last night, then I realized it was after 10 at night. I gotta use a like air saw, which is louder than hell, so I gotta do that. So I waited this morning. It gave me the night to sit and think about it a little bit. You know, I'm cutting original dash on a 64 that's in great shape other than some weird holes somebody cut in it. So, but you know what they say, any fabricator could build a car, build a nice car. A real fabricator would cut up a nice car. So, I'm gonna do it. So, let's get set up and start cutting this dash.
Seems like only yesterday I held you in my hands, and now I'm looking on your grave and sit on heavy fence. I've got no sun that shines on me. I've got no place to go.
The number one rule to the way I work, the right tool is whatever tool that works.
My little victory, I miss you so.
Alright, so look, I did a little trimming on the gauge pod because the top was going to hit the stereo. Okay, now I've taken a piece of sheet metal. I know this looks goofy as hell, but I took a piece of sheet metal because these are aluminum. I'm going to a steel dash. And the trim around it from that hole, this will look so much better if nobody had cut that hole. So, the way I have this set up right now is just like that. Okay, we're filling in the gap of the hole. I'm going to have to stitch weld that in there. And then I bent this to wrap around. Now I haven't cut off the sides yet because there's a gap here that shows. So what I want to do is I want to figure it out, and I can bend this up and kind of shape it in there and then tack it in. So that's the plan. This is taking a lot longer. Every time I start a project, man, oh, I'm just gonna mount some gauges, and yeah, I end up doing stuff like this. So anyway, alright, well it's all in. I used a little bit of caulking here just to seal it up, make it look clean. Now the trick is now I gotta paint it, and I know it's not gonna match because it's too old. So instead of taping a line and having a heavy line, I'm gonna try to just fade it out a little bit. I'm not saying it's gonna work. If it doesn't work, we'll come back and tape the line. So that's what I gotta do now.
I see that Truman Road Hotel. I see you dressed in black. My words that I forgot to spell. My knife pierced in your neck. I've got no sun that shines on me. I've got no place to go.
Alright guys, well I've got some time. It's time to wrap up this project. So what I've done is 1/4-inch airline. I had 50 feet of it. I cut it up into 4 lines, taped them together so they're easy to run. So I've got to run these from the T-fittings in the back where we tapped into each line up to through the dash into the gauges, so we can get it all plumbed in. So that's what I'm going to do now. Alright, well I made this plate. It covered the port where the heater went in. None of that actually works, or none of it's installed. So I made this plate with some grommets, ran the hoses nice and clean through, and they go into the gauges. Alright, when I got the gauges, they only had white face and black bezel. All my gauges here are white face, silver bezel. So I've taped them up, and I just used some enamel model paint to paint the silvers so they all match. Real simple, just taped it with masking tape and did it. Okay, so I'm going to untape these and go ahead and mount the gauges.
My little victory, I miss you so.
Alright guys, well that wraps up for this week. I've got a couple more things to do on the truck. Change the tire and change the cooling fan, replace some batteries. But I've got all that lined out for tomorrow and the next day. Parts coming in so I can get it taken care of. So, before I go tonight, let's talk about a couple tools. Now, one thing that I never talked about is the fact that I center punch all my holes before I drill them. Now, this is a technique or habit or whatever you should definitely get used to. If you've ever tried to drill something and the drill bit just wants to walk on you every which way, and it's really hard to get precision, holes in it, you should be using a center punch. So now this one here is an old school one. I've had this forever. It's actually a nail set that I sharpened. Works great though. I tell you the truth, I don't know what these go for. I mean, it can't be more than a couple bucks, but I've had this one since, God knows how long. So you can do one of these, or you can spend the money and buy one of these guys. Now what this is a spring-loaded one. No hammer required. You put it down, you press, the spring pops, and it's a hard enough hit to put that dimple in the steel to make that drill bit stay where you need it. So center punch, definitely something you should be using. It's going to make your life so much easier if you use it, because you're not going to have to fight that bit walking around. If you're not using a press and you're hand drilling everything, you're going to need to use a center punch. Now, something else that you guys see me use constantly. My portable bandsaw. Now, this one's Chicago Electric, which is Harbor Freight. I've had that guy probably for 15 years. I'm only on like my third blade. I use it a lot, but because you can keep your pressure even, the blades last. Now, I think I paid 75 bucks for it, but I know they came out with a new one. Bauer, I believe is the name brand. Or Bear or something like that. I don't know. It starts with B. They're on sale for 99 bucks. I just looked them up earlier today. So, much nicer than this one. Pretty nice actually. But this one, I won't buy a new one until it fails me. So, for right now, I'm going to keep using it. But portable bandsaw, guys, if you don't have a full operational shop, that bandsaw is going to do a lot of things for you. I'll even clamp it in a vise and use it like a regular bandsaw and feed stuff through it. I've found so many uses for it. That's definitely a good tool. That's 100 bucks you will not regret buying. So, the other thing, these cutters, okay? These are supposedly meant for PVC. If you've ever tried to cut PVC with this, it doesn't work, okay? You need the ratcheting ones for that. But these guys are amazing for hose cutters, airline cutters, things like that. Now, a real hose cutter has a point in the middle, but these do just fine. Let me show you. Okay, so you've got just this PVC line that we use for on the airlines, okay? Simple, easy, all day long, nice factory smooth cut. Now, if you're cutting these airlines with a pair of dies, scissors, whatever, you're not going to get that nice clean line on it, especially with press fittings. You really want that nice even cut on the end so that when it goes all the way in, it'll lock and you pull it back, no leaks. So these guys are, I think I paid 9 bucks, Depot. They're rigid. Believe me, you will use these for more things than you imagine. I cut everything with these things. So, great tool to have. Alright guys, well that wraps it up for tonight. I appreciate you watching. And if you guys like the video, do me a favor. Like and subscribe. And if you want to see some other ones, over here. And you guys down in Tucson, I'll see you this weekend on Saturday. Have a good one.